everyone, I'm Luna from Capraso Coffee Roasters. Welcome back to another video. Today, we are going to talk about coffee calibration. There are many schools of thoughts on how to calibrate coffee. Some people prefer to calibrate coffee as an exact science, meaning that they follow exactly the recipe that they have, and some calibrate the coffee by sight, by how it looks. Over here at Capraso, we calibrate by taste, meaning that we adjust parameters to get the coffee notes that we want. But before we dive into that, what is coffee calibration? Coffee calibration is dialing in coffee for, first and foremost, consistency and as well as taste. Calibration is especially important for cafes to ensure that no matter the time or the day, they are serving the coffee to taste exactly how they want it to taste like. So, how do you calibrate coffee? Calibration is essentially increasing or decreasing the rate of extraction. There are 5 factors that you can adjust in order to calibrate coffee. First things first is the grind size. Second, brew temperature. Third, the brew pressure or agitation. Fourth, the brew ratio as well as coffee dosage. For this video though, we are going to talk about what we feel is the 2 easiest way to calibrate your coffee, which is by grind size as well as the brewing temperature. Best practice is to adjust one parameter at a time. That is to say, if you are adjusting the grind size, do not also adjust the brew temperature and vice versa. Before we get to how exactly you should adjust these 2 parameters, let's first talk about the extraction graph. When you first extract coffee, the easiest compound to extract is the acidity compounds, and that is your fruity and bright notes. Then, as you extract further, you get your chocolatey, nutty, and sweet notes. And if you go past this point, you'll start extracting the organic matters, which is flavor notes such as tobacco or woody notes. So now we keep the graph in mind as we learn how to calibrate coffee. So the way we do it is that we will first brew a cup of coffee. For espresso, we will start with grinds that feel a little bit like fine sand. And for pour over, we'll start with grinds that feel a little bit like coarse sugar. Once we've brewed our first cup, we will first taste the coffee. Next, we identify where on the extraction graph our coffee notes is. Let's say the coffee that we extract is a little bit too sour for our liking. On the graph, we know that it is somewhere around the first third of the graph, which is where the acid compounds are. And so, to get the flavor notes that we want, maybe we wanted something a little more sweet, a little more nutty, we need to push the extraction up the graph. So therefore, what we need to do is that we need to increase the rate of extraction. To increase the rate of extraction, you can either grind finer or brew with a higher temperature. Grinding finer increases the resistance in your coffee bed. So the brewing water will take a longer time to pass through your coffee bed, and therefore increasing the contact time between the water and the grinds. This increases the rate of extraction. And by increasing the brewing temperature, you're making the coffee compounds easier to extract. It is the same principle as trying to dissolve, let's say, Milo powder in cold water versus hot water. It is much easier to make your cup of Milo with hot water instead of cold water. The higher the temperature, the easier it is to extract your coffee, hence increasing the rate of extraction. The inverse is therefore also true. If the coffee is too bitter for your liking, what you need to do is you want to decrease the rate of extraction. So you do the opposite. So instead of grinding finer, you grind more coarse. And instead of brewing hotter or at a higher temperature, you lower the brewing temperature. But again, remember to adjust one parameter at a time. So that means once you've changed either the grind size or the brewing temperature, extract a cup of coffee, taste it, and make further adjustments from there. Okay, and now you might ask, how big should the adjustments be? How many notches should you adjust your grind size, or how many degrees should you adjust your brewing temperature? So the answer lies in how big a gap is the actual taste of the coffee versus what you want the coffee to taste like. So if the coffee is supposed to be chocolatey or nutty but it tastes sour, you can adjust by 3 to 4 notches or 2 to 3 degrees. However, we always advise our coffee crew to adjust by 1 notch or 1 degrees at a time. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful, And if you have any questions, you can send us a message on WhatsApp or leave a comment down below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. As always, stay motivated!